Thank you for joining me in this podcast call today, Sara. I'm so excited to open up this conversation with you and to just have a chat about you and your life and your understanding of life and just what you're doing in life these days, really. So, I guess I'd like to share that you and I met a couple of years ago. I think it might have been in 2018, at a meeting, a kind of group powwow. And all I remember from that first meeting with you is just the depth from which you spoke from. And I just felt instantly captivated by you and interested to know more about who you were and how you saw life. And I think I've just been kind of stalking and following you since that day, really. and from that kind of first meeting, you opened me up to exploring more about myself and my understanding of life and this spiritual exploration. And so it felt right for you to be the first guest on the show, really, because you were the first person that really kind of consciously opened me up to exploring life from within myself. And so I'll always be eternally grateful to you for that. And so I'd love to know from your perspective how you understand life and yourself at this moment in time.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to add that our first meeting I just found so fascinating because I was actually stuck in the mud, wasn't I?
Yeah.
That's how we met. You actually came to rescue me with the other two women that were part of that powwow group because I'd followed the sat-nav, even though my instinct had said, no, that's not the right way. But I followed what I was told by this machine. and yeah, ended up in like a farmer's field, stuck in the mud in a rear wheel drive vehicle. And you came to rescue me. And I just find that piece is part of the story for me because you shared there that in some way I opened you up to more consciously looking within and seeing life maybe in a different way, or putting the pieces together that you already started to see. And I just love the fact that it's like we're forever saving each other in a way.
Yeah.
Forever helping each other out of the mud.
Yeah. To
see more clearly. So I just love that piece, that's actually how we met. You came and rescued me. And I love that.
Oh, I love that too. I love that too. And I love that understanding that we are always saving each other. And I think it's the recognition of each other that helps to pull us out of the mud sometimes.
Yeah, that reflection, of love, of life. So where am I now? Where am I now with this understanding? So it's still the same in a way, because when you met me, it hadn't been that long since I'd had a shift in perspective where I really saw that there's no separation in anything. So for me, how that sort of manifested was being stood in the kitchen, listening to Michael Neal, who I know you listen to as well. I was listening to Michael Neal, and he said something along the lines of, how can you improve yourself when you're thought created? So how can you improve this self that you are when it's created by thought? And I then had my life flash before my eyes, kind of going in reverse, and different memories popped up. and I was getting younger and younger and younger. And then I was this baby, and then the baby disappeared, but I was still there. And it was just black. There was a sense of being totally and utterly alone, and yet not alone. It's like there was nothing and everything both at the same time. And it was like all of these different polarities that we have all converged. And then I was back in the kitchen again. But forever changed in that moment, because I could no longer, there was just no longer this sense of me and the world, and me needing to be better or escape something. There was just suddenly, this is it. This is all there is. This is life. I am life. Everything is life. And there's nowhere to get to, nothing to ultimately do. And yet there's everything to play for.
Yeah.
It was like this falling in love with life, which I'd been up until that point trying to escape, trying to find this sense of nirvana. Surely there's something more. Surely there's something else. Surely I can be better. How can I not have the fears I've got? How can I, not have the major one for me was like a fear of rejection. How can I get rid of that? And in that moment, suddenly fear just looked completely different as well. It was no longer something to, like I say, escape from. It was just, this is all just the dance of life. And seeing that just meant that everything that I then engaged in and did from that point on just had a lightness of being to it, a playfulness to it. And I'm still, that knowing of no separation, that, is I can't unsee that. I can't unknow that. And now it's more a case of what I'm noticing more recently is different experiences and trauma that's been experienced throughout my life, and also generational and ancestral trauma, collective trauma. That seems to be what's emerging now. And 2020 was very much a healing process. And I'm still on that path of really facing, different experiences, traumas, things held in the body. I think I went on a bit of a pursuit into the ascension route. So you could call that sort of like non-duality type explanations of what life is, which is very, like I said, it's sort of like the upper chakras. Whereas now I feel very much about going to the lower chakras and deep into the body and sensuality and really, and that's kind of Shakti fire, really feeling everything being really rooted in the earth. And I see at some point there'll be like the merging of those two, the integration of those two coming together. So yeah, that's where I'm at, sort of like on the pivotal point of those two merging.
How beautiful. And I think it's the combination of the mind and body as one. That's what comes to me as I listen to what you share. It's the freedom of body and the freedom of the mind as well, and just allowing everything to be what it is, let the body move as it wants to, let the thoughts flow freely as they want to, and that coming together of that experience, and how it's so grounded and yet so universal at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
When you said it's everything and nothing, I could totally relate to and understand and feel that, because I know in my experience I've had moments where I've realised that this body of mine, the body that I experience in my everyday life, is a part of life, and yet without it, life would still be happening, life would still continue on. And it brings such a wonderful freedom to the day-to-day existence of what's happening. You know, I can wash up in joy, knowing that it doesn't matter. I can still find that lightness and that joy and that freedom, even in the mundane, everyday tasks. And I think that's where I am at the moment. And I love where you are in that spiritual healing journey, is what I hear in what you share, of healing the ages, healing through the ages back to the divine source before any of us experienced any kind of trauma. You know, who were we at source before trauma as a species? You know, I think that's beautiful, and that's what I hear in what you say. So it sounds like, even though your understanding from when we met hasn't changed, it sounds to me like you're seeing more in that space of everything and nothing. And I'd love to know more about how seeing more within yourself has translated into what you do in your everyday life, and how you approach the things that you do in your everyday life.
Yeah, it's definitely a seeing more, because so the fundamental difference from when we met is that I got so excited about there not being anything to do that became almost like a belief system. There's nothing to do. And it almost gave me this permission slip to not face feelings in the body, to almost neglect the body, actually, I would say. And now I'm recognizing the importance of nourishing the body. And, you know, this is an expression, the body is an expression of life. So I feel obligated to nurture, mother, protect, heal, soothe the body, and to also allow the body and mind to expand as much as humanly possible in this realm, you know. And that's not from a place of force, or, you know, you must achieve this, that and the other, or a certain idea of what success looks like, but just to kind of recognize the freedom in going for things and trying new things. And I suppose how that plays out in my work is to model that for people, to model that we can engage in new things. We can move out of what's sort of known as our comfort zone, because whatever we're in our sort of comfort zone, everything, it's just a variation on the same, because there's nothing new is coming in. And it's when we actually rub up against those edges where there is discomfort, that's where there's expansion. So that's, I suppose, what I'm encouraging people to do is, as you start expressing yourself and moving from this kind of conditioned, tamed version of who you think you are, what you think you should do, it does feel uncomfortable and edgy, because the conditioning will start shouting, that's not safe, you know, this might happen, that might happen, you're going to be ostracized, or you're going to upset so and so, or you're going, you know what I mean, all of that, all of the types of fears around we've got, as humans, we have this need to belong. And part of our survival is, we are kind of interdependent on each other. So we do things to ensure our survival and that we're going to remain connected to other people. So that can look very much like whatever the society you're in, if it's deemed that women should behave a certain way, then you're going to behave that way in order to fit in, or, children should behave a certain way, or men should behave a certain way, or whatever, whatever label and what have you. There's like these conditions attached to all of these different identities that we appear as. And what we're noticing globally anyway is the crumbling of those identities and those fixed ideas of who somebody is, whether it's gender or whatever it might be, or what a body should look like. All of those those ideas and concepts are starting to crumble. So it's a really exciting time, actually. And When Women Speak is about really embracing this time that we're at and offering support for women to start to look at their conditioning, start to look at where am I remaining small because of fear? Where am I not expressing myself fully because of, the unknown and worrying about this and that? So that's what I would say in answer to your question.
Amazing.
I hope that made sense.
It did. It made perfect sense, and it was absolutely beautiful. And the work that you and Nicola are doing and have done with When Women Speak, for me personally, has been pivotal in my feeling that I am able to express my voice, the words that I hear in my mind. And I think I agree with that. I relate to that. I align with those words. And I think it's an absolutely fantastic project. I'm not sure if that's the right word to describe it. I know that you've both described yourself as custodians of When Women Speak, and I would love to see more women being involved in the work that you're doing, because it's had such a profound impact on my ability to be able to share my experience and personal perspective. And I think that for women, that is such an important part of us feeling like we can operate in the world as ourselves, and to not feel afraid of shedding that conditioning of who we think society thinks we should be. Because I know what I found in my journey of exploring the conditioning that I have and letting go of it, that actually society people accommodate you as you expand and grow. And often it's our own fears that won't happen that can stop us from expressing ourselves honestly and openly. And so when I share this podcast, I'll definitely include some links to how people can get in touch with you through When Women Speak. And also, if you've got any links of how people can contact you directly to get in touch with you about your personal kind of coaching work, then I'd love to include those links so people can reach out to you as well.
Yeah, definitely. There was something that you shared there that, will it come back to me? There was just something, No, it's gone for now. maybe it will come back.
Well, I think the only other thing that came to me as you were speaking about conditioning and thoughts and ideas and beliefs about who we should be is what I've found quite helpful in my journey of being freer as myself and feeling more expansive within myself, is recognizing that the conditioning is a thought. And I think developing an understanding into what thought is and how thoughts in and of themselves although the content of them might display that there is authority in them, in truth, it's just this essence and expression of life, in the same way that a plant is, or a cat is, you know, a thought is a thought, a human is a human, a plant is a plant. And I think once I realised that regardless of how the thought appears, it's still just a thought, and therefore I have the ability to be able to question it and observe it and assess for myself whether what the thought is telling me is true or something that I have to do or believe. Just understanding that has been really helpful for me as well, and has helped me in feeling like I can allow the thoughts that I have to be free and just being what they are and doing what they do without feeling like I have to pay attention to them or engage in them. So that was just something that came up for me in listening to what you were saying as well about kind of shedding the conditioning.
Yeah, and there's the kind of follow-on piece from that is, if there is a pattern that is just continuously running, that, you know, there are things that you can get curious about with that and see what makes sense to do about that. And it's not about over analyzing the content. It's more about seeing what's the benefit of. There always seems to be, what I've noticed is the condition that we have in these patterns that get formed from between sort of like 0 and 7. They've been learned for a reason. And that reason is likely to be in order to receive love, you know, to make sure that we're going to survive. Then as we get older, that particular pattern might no longer be helpful. So it's just more about looking at what's behind that need for that pattern to be in place. And it will be something to do with, receiving love, or, you know, or like I said, belonging, or, so one of the things that I've been looking at, is what our innate qualities are. And there's some brilliant work by Adam Quiney on this, called The Spectrums of Being. He is writing a book. It's in draft form at the moment. But his podcast does go into some details on the spectrum of being. And that's wonderful because it shows you, and it's not that you only have so many qualities, you know, but there's usually kind of like maybe say 5 that are quite pronounced. And that's something, they're not skills. So this is just something that it's something that you be. So you might not necessarily recognize them because it's a little bit like, we can't sort of like see our own eyeball, or bite our own teeth, but other people will see it. As you come into a room, people see these innate qualities. So if you were to ask various people, you know, what do you see? They will you'll start to see the same things being said about you. But those innate qualities, depending on how we perceived they were responded to as a child, we can then either overcompensate or undercompensate. Because if we learn that so if you had a quality of, say, radiance, and you light up the room, one of the things that could have been said as a child is stop showing off. So you then innocently, it's like, oh, how I'm being is not welcome. So then you might undercompensate your radiance and try and might wear that could manifest as wearing baggy clothes, or saying that, oh, I don't like being in crowds, or do you see what I mean? And that then becomes our sort of our personality and how we go about life. But that's not fixed. The quality is, in a way, fixed in the sense of it's just who you be.
Yeah.
But how we actually express those qualities can vary throughout our lives based on our understanding of who we are and what life is. And when we really see what you were sort of sharing, that we're free to be, then that means that those innate qualities can just be this beacon of light. So it's your soul on fire in the world, unmasked, untamed, just literally this bright light burning, just, and that's what I get excited about. And that's why I love When Women Speak, because that's what's at the heart of it. At the heart of it is people being fully expressed, free to be themselves, unburdened by conditioning and all of that.
Beautiful. And when you were talking about how we develop conditioning based on things we learn as small children about how much of something to be and how little of something to be, for me, that came to me as like levels of sound, and how parts of us we might express louder, more brightly, other parts of us quieter and less overtly. But once we feel able to express our whole selves, it's like there's just this balance and harmony of everything that we express. And yeah, that's just how that came to me. And also the kind of dimming down and the making overcompensating is effort. It's fucking effort.
Yes.
Like, when you realise that you don't have to do that constant monitoring of, am I too much? Am I not enough? Oh, wow. Yes. I'll just be, please. Thanks. That's so much better. It takes the effort out of being alive. You can just be alive, do what you need to do, and kind of not worry about how it's being perceived. And what I found is that it may well be that our natural expression is too loud for some, not loud enough to others. But I think that there's a natural attraction in you start to kind of spend more time with the people who aren't as offended by your expression or don't think that you need to be more of who you are. There's just kind of a natural movement in who you end up being surrounded by when you just start to naturally express yourself from this place of less conditioning and of just being the expression of life that you are. And oh my God, soul on fire. Yes, it's beautiful. And I think the beauty is when you see other people's souls lighting up as well, when you see the beacons and the lighthouses, and how that in itself is just so inspiring.
It is. And what I'd add to that is we can naturally, when we are seeing ourselves fully and seeing other people in their innate qualities rather than looking at the conditioning. So rather than kind of the behaviour, or actually looking at what's behind that, then there does seem to be a greater allowing acceptance of the behaviour as well, and an owning of our impact. So it's not that we need to change ourselves, but we can, it seems to happen automatically from a place of compassion and love, that if you are with somebody who finds you too much, that from compassion, there is like this shift. It's not, do you know what I mean? It's almost like somebody who is kind of oblivious to how they're being in the world could be like a bull in a china shop. But somebody that's kind of is fully grounded in themselves, there does seem to be this ability to wax and wane and flow with with everything. So I like what you said about the sound and the, you know, loud and quiet. It's like we can run up and down that scale effortlessly. We're choosing rather than it happening to us. There's like this it's not conscious choice as such, but there's just like this ability to be with people in a loving way, because we're not trying to impress anyone. We're not trying to make somebody do something, you know, bend to our will kind of thing. There's this, it's more like a holding of space for people to be, because we know what it's, you know, because we're being who we are. There's this holding of space for other people to be as well. So I just wanted to add that it's not about us only then being with people who are like ourselves. When we're this grounded, you can be with anybody. You know, difference of opinion and all of that can be held, because you're not fixated on changing somebody's behavior, or, you know, you're in that loving space. There's that phrase, isn't there, at the end of yoga classes, namaste. It's like, you know, I bow to the being in you. So it's this really sovereign approach to life, where we're seeing people as they truly are, not as the apparent, appearance.
That makes perfect sense. And it's a natural acceptance of everything as it is. And I find that when I come back to being who I am able to respond naturally to life as it is. And it is seeing through the behaviour to the source of the individual and where that expression is coming from, and seeing the absolute beauty in that, in the expression as being what it is. So I can absolutely relate to and understand what you're saying, and I think it's a beautiful understanding and way of observing and being in life, is that whole acceptance of everything being as it is, and feeling grounded enough within yourself to be able to experience it for what it is, experience things happening. And you said earlier in our chat about the discomfort, because that's part of it, isn't it? But can you experience discomfort as an experience and not something that you have to do anything about? You know, it's recognizing that life is it's all of it. It's everything as it is being expressed. And so I love that. Thank you for sharing that insight.
Yeah, I remembered that piece from earlier where where I'd forgotten. So when you were sharing about being part of When Women Speak and recognizing that you could use your voice, you know, there's nothing that you need to hide about who you are. What I heard just yesterday, actually, is somebody who's in the When Women Speak Facebook group, who doesn't share in there but is just observing, is that they're now going on to host an online summit, and that's through being inspired by other members of that group showing up and speaking. There was also another member who went on to run a similar event to something that we ran in When Women Speak. And again, I just love those ripples of, you know, when you show up as yourself and invite other people to do the same, that then invites out more people to do the same, and it just ripples out, and then the waves just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's something else I find really exciting. And I've loved watching your voice grow, and just, you know, it's obviously always been there, but you're revealing more and more, and there's just such a beautiful quality in your writing. It's very poetic and very, well, I suppose it's like musical writing.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I've loved witnessing that over the past couple of years. And now, you're doing this podcast. So again, I just, in any way that I and the things that I'm part of can inspire or just support people to express themselves in different and creative ways, brilliant. Bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely. And from my experience, what I found helpful and impactful and inspiring in the work that you do and the space that When Women Speak holds is that it is that non-judgmental, open, let's just see what happens when we open our mouths and speak. It's that there's no pressure for the words that we say to do anything or to mean anything beyond it being an experience of just opening up and speaking. And then I think another part of the work that you do that I've found to be impactful is then, once the words have been said, the non-judgmental space that they're held in. I think that is everything, because the reason why I feel like I can openly express my voice now is because I've learned from the experiences that I've had with you and When Women Speak that it is safe to share. And I think also coming to a realisation within myself that there's no need to try and impress or work to get anyone's approval or attention is another huge part of just allowing this time that I have on earth to be an experience and to really fully heart, soul, body, mind, fucking embrace it, And yes, of course, there's fearful thoughts, there's anxiety, there's discomfort, there's difficult circumstances. Of course, yes, that's part of it. But underneath all that is just this kind of wide-eyed, open, let's just fucking see what happens underneath it. And just complete awe of the miracle of life. And I feel like my ability to be able to articulate that, because that's always been there, that kind of seed and that source of that experience has always been within me, but feeling able to express it and talk about it and write about it has been in a lot of ways inspired by the work that you and Nicola do. So that, for me, that's what When Women Speak has offered. And I think from my perspective, that is one of the beautiful things that your work and your community offers to people.
Gorgeous. Well, brilliant. Then we're hitting all of the right notes, and I'm excited for 2021 because we're moving. So Nicola is now stepping down as our director of When Women Speak, and we're opening up to seeing new people coming on board with the strategic development of it and where we might go, because we're actually a social enterprise, so a not-for-profit organisation. So it's like, it's exciting to see what direction the organisation can go in, and who might we help, because there are in parts of the world still it's not safe for women to speak freely, so there's maybe we'll team up with organisations that are working in countries where it isn't as easy for women to express themselves. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I will just see what unfolds. But I just feel for those of us who are in this privileged position where it's more a case of, yes, there's collective wounding, and from, like I said, from generations before, where women across the globe weren't able to speak and be themselves, but in certain societies that is changing and continues to change. And so I just feel for those of us in a privileged position where we can use our voice and we can be in positions of leadership, whether that's political or just within our friendship groups, our families, our workplace, our community, that we embrace that and have fun with that and lead the way for change. So I am definitely excited about kind of the activism side of what could be possible with When Women Speak as well.
It sounds brilliant. And I think that voices can be such a powerful instrument of change. If we reflect back through history and social activism throughout the ages, you know, the speeches that really hit home for people are the things that are often, you know, remembered. And so absolutely, our voices can be so powerful in activating change and creating positive change for others in the world. Absolutely. So that's really exciting. And I will definitely include some links. So if anybody's interested in being involved in the work that you're doing, that they can get in touch with you. And I don't feel like I've got anything else that I want to ask you for today's podcast, but is there anything that you'd like to talk to me about or to share with anyone that's listening?
I feel that the name of the podcast says it all. And I'm curious to ask you a question, which is, for this year ahead, 2021, how you see yourself stepping more, for want of a better phrase, because you can't necessarily be more of who you are. But as we were talking about earlier, there is this kind of like unraveling, revealing, isn't there? That kind of is like peeling an onion. So there is that piece, I think, that does happen. So for 2021, what do you see for yourself in terms of being free to be you?
I think I see more. So I would say I agree with you. You can't be more than who you are, but I think you can definitely express more of who you are. And so I think that for me, this next year is about uncovering more of the field of creativity and expressing more of how I see the world from my perspective. So I think it's going to be more of me kind of observing my own thoughts and understanding of the world, and then sharing that, and then just seeing what happens. I feel very open to just allowing life to be what it is and to not put any pressure on myself or anybody else for it to be anything other than what it is right now. So I think speaking from a place of being present is something that I'm quite passionate about at the moment. I think because so much of my life up until now has been me speaking from conditioning. And I think because I've learned that and I've recognised that, and I enjoy feeling expressive as myself, I think that's going to be my next year of just seeing more and expressing more of what I see.
Gorgeous. And I'm excited for more writing to come out of you, because I know it will. It's just beautiful. So yeah, maybe a book is on the horizon for you. Who knows?
Who knows? I think I'm too lazy to write a book. Because I guess how my writing comes to me is in phrases. It's like little bubbles of insight and little bubbles of words that come, and I think it would just take me too long to fill a whole book with those. But we'll see, who knows. You
may well be surprised, because one of the books that Nicola wrote was actually, it was pieced together from previous posts that she'd done, and then she realized, oh, hang on, there's a theme here, and she just put them all together in an ebook. Because remember, there are no rules. So, I mean, there's that gorgeous book by Glennon Doyle, Untamed, where I love part of the story of that because she'd already written previous books and she'd written about 100,000 words of Untamed and shared it with a friend. I was like, there's something off with this. What is it? And her friend pointed out that, well, the book is about Untamed, but you've kind of written it in a kind of standard way that books are written. And she basically just ripped the whole thing up and started again. And if you haven't read Untamed, how it's kind of laid out is it jumps around all over the place. The book is untamed.
Yeah. I haven't read it, but it's one that I've heard a lot about, so it sounds like it's worthy of a read. But yeah,
it definitely is, and it really highlights that there are no rules. So your book could be a series of little phrases. You could look back at everything you wrote over the past 4 months, and I bet you've already got something there.
Just pop it all together.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that it's possible to just do things as we want to. And I think that's probably another thing for 2021 as well, is breaking the molds of conditioning. I feel quite purposeful in that mission of, for myself, at least for now, just acknowledging and recognising conditioning, but also recognising that it doesn't have any authority to influence my behaviour unless it's that bringing together of the mind and body. I think, does it feel good for me to do this? Does it feel right within my body? Do I feel at peace within my body and mind to be acting out this behaviour? And if not, there is room in there for me to just question it and see if I can do things a different way. So yeah, I like that recognition and understanding that there aren't any set ways of doing things beyond the ones that we believe are true.
Yeah. So just bringing more awareness and being intentional with our actions. Sounds like a plan.
It does. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your company and conversation and insight and wisdom and love and expression. It's been beautiful to interview you, and I wish you all the best for the future of When Women Speak and for yourself as well. And I'm excited to see how you unfold and express through 2021 too. So thank you so much for being a guest. The first guest.
Yay, the first guest. I'm so honoured. Thank you, Shanine. I love you so much. Thank you.
I love you too. Thank you, Sara.